Hi guys, welcome. It's Miss Todrick's turn to do the introduction solo this time. So, we'll just dive right in. We're going to be looking at two of my favorite places in ancient Greece, Athens and Sparta. Now, these two polises or city-states were very, very different from each other. And we've talked about in lesson 1 that because of the geography of ancient Greece, all of these little polises kind of became isolated. Well, today we're going to see, one, how they kind of structured their government, but also the fact that their governments were very different and kind of how that influenced people's lives. But we're also going to look really in depth at Athens' government, their democracy, because it strongly influenced other forms of democracy, including our own. So we've got some hand motions, we've got some things that we're going to ask you to circle and star and all that good stuff. So make sure you're listening carefully, pause, rewind, repeat what you got to repeat, guys. We look forward to seeing you soon and talking all about this. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is my favorite unit, in case you couldn't tell. All right, guys, work hard. Have a great night. We've talked quite a bit about how in ancient Greece, the geography kept people very isolated from each other. Because of those high mountains and the fact of being surrounded by water, all of the polises or city-states started to develop kind of independently. And this was true of their language. They spoke different dialects. It's true of their religion and kind of how they ran things. And it's especially true of their government. So in ancient Greece, the struggle for power and control of these polises or city-states led to many different types of government. Now we have some hand motions again for this one, right? Surprise, surprise. So we're going to go over those real quick, and I want you to make sure that you practice these hand motions. We do expect you to know them when you come into class. If you don't, you're not meeting our expectations. So our first one is one that we're real familiar with. It's the concept of a monarchy. And when we say monarchy, we're going to put on that crown on top of our head. We know that the earliest Greek polises were controlled by monarchs or hereditary kings. Monarchs, people with their crowns, that means it gets passed down from generation to generation, okay? That's what hereditary means. But some people became unhappy with the monarchs and with always having to just go with the same family or dynasty. You remember our family of monarchs that we talked about in ancient Egypt, okay? Some polises or city-states in Greece were unhappy with this. So then we have tyranny, and we're going to do strong arms here. Woo, strong arms, okay? Because tyrants, or powerful and popular military leaders, gained support of the citizens and overthrew the kings. So our tyrannies, or our tyrants, are military leaders who rule by force and control. Okay, and they usually want to try to get the people on their side, get the common people on their side, because they know that if they don't, they could be thrown out of power just like they threw the monarchs out of power. Other forms of government are oligarchies. Now, in an oligarchy, a few wealthy people hold all the power. So when we say oligarchy, we're going to take just a few fingers, and we're going to reach out and grab all that power. We're going to say oligarchy, and we're going to hold all of the power in our hands, okay? Oligarchy, we hold all of the power with just a few fingers, okay? And then we have a whole new system that some polises in ancient Greece decided to move to, a democracy. Now, we've heard of democracies before. We live in a democracy. By 330 BC, some city-states chose to go with this type of government, where all citizens shared in the form of government. So when we say democracy, we point to all the people who can participate. We say democracy, and we point to all of the citizens who can participate. Now remember, in ancient Greece, the idea of citizenship was really different than it is today. And we talk about that with our lesson 1 notes. So just a quick reminder, guys, these 4 types of government, these are going to be so crucial for you to know. So I want you to practice these. Our monarchy, our hereditary kings with their crowns on their head. Our tyrannies with the strong, powerful military rulers, strong arms over here too. Our oligarchies, where just a few people hold all of that power. And our democracy, where all our citizens can vote. So hold on, because you're going to see us kind of walking through how these governments came to be and the kind of progression that happened in ancient Greece with these. Remember, practice those hand motions. We expect them to be memorized when we come in, guys.
All right, guys, so let's talk about Sparta, which we often refer to as a military society. So Sparta was an oligarchy, or a few wealthy people who ruled over the polis that ended up invading neighboring city-states and enslaved the local people. Now, the Spartans enslaved these local people and referred to them as helots, or slaves. So, helot equals slave. Can you underline and circle that? Not to be confused with a hoplite. I know the H's might confuse you. So, helot is a slave. So, they decided to make Sparta, around 650 BC, the helots, or the slaves, they rebelled. Okay, people don't like to be taken over and bossed around, so they decided, no, we're tired of that. So the helots rebelled. Now the Spartans crushed the rebellion and prevented future rebellions by making Sparta a military society. Now, they decided to make it a military society to stress discipline and hopefully encourage more obedient and loyal citizens. Now, because Sparta was a military society, the government wanted to prepare all boys and men for a life of war. Since the very beginning, unhealthy babies in Sparta were left outside the city to die. Okay, they believed that if they weren't fully healthy, they wouldn't be strong enough to be in war. So they actually would leave the babies out to die. Harsh, I know. So the boys in particular, they left home at the age of 7 to go to military school where they were treated very harshly. Again, all about teaching obedience and loyalty. So if you look over here, this is between the ages of 7 and 12. They valued training. The boys went home and went to military camp, and they would learn basic education, so reading, writing, things like that. Now, men were required to stay in the military until the age of 60. Yes, can you believe that? So, but at the age of 30 down here, if you take a look, it says soldiers could participate in the assembly and move back home. So, that just means they had full citizenship. They could participate in the government. Now, girls and women, on the other hand, in Sparta, they actually had more rights than most women in the ancient world, specifically the Greek city-states, because Spartan men were often away from home. So the women obviously had to stand up and, take care of the house. Women could actually own property, train in sports, and run the households. Now, this training in sports was a big important factor. So women training in sports in Sparta was actually a big, important thing to them. They believed in physical fitness, they believed in staying healthy, and they believed in staying strong while men were away. Now, the main goal for women was to raise strong, brave Spartan soldiers. Spartan soldiers were obviously boys. Okay, so again, physical fitness, being strong, being obedient, that was a big part of the Spartan military society.
All right, guys, so we just finished listening to Miss Lewis tell us all about Sparta and what happens there and what the Spartan city-state looked like. So now we want to look at another city-state, Athens. Athens is considered to be one of the most influential city-states going forward for quite a long time. And like many places, there's going to be tensions between the people, and it's usually between the rich and the poor. So you have rich citizens, nobles, and then you have poor farmers. And there's a lot of tension between the two of them because they want some changes in government. So as we move through this, there's going to be several different men who make different changes in the Athenian government. So the first one we want to look at is Solon. He's a respected merchant who the nobles turned to for leadership. He ended the farmers' debts, and he opened the assembly to all citizens. So what happened is the poor farmers had so much debt. They were beginning to sell themselves into slavery to pay off their debt. And Solon wanted to change that, so he gave everybody forgiveness from all of their debts. And then they were able to participate in the assembly. Now, the rich merchants didn't approve of that at all, and they thought that Solon had just gone just a little bit too far. But the other poor farmers wanted more say in their government. They wanted to go a little bit further. So Pisistratus is our next guy we want to talk about, and he is a tyrant. And Miss Todrick has a hand symbol she uses for that. It's like powerful and popular. So you got two guys, two like you're really powerful.
And so a tyrant is a person who is going to seize power and he's going to take over control. So he steps up and he does that. He is supported by the military because he supports them and gives them some guidance and gives them some rights and things that they want. And so the typical people of Athens are supporting him as a tyrant. He extends rights to other people. He's going to spread citizenship out and give them even more opportunity to participate in their government. So now not only are they able to, the poor people able to participate in the assembly, like Solomon said, now they're actually going to let people who don't even own land participate in their government. And so that is a big step. And again, that causes more tensions. Now, one thing I want to say about a tyrant before we go any further, we typically in America, our form of thought process on this is a tyrant is a bad person. Usually we get the form of tyranny from there, and it's usually an oppressive person who pushes you down and doesn't let you have any rights and very much a tyrant. But in ancient Greece, a tyrant is not necessarily a bad thing. And leaders all have qualities, and we've talked about this before, the qualities of leadership. So a tyrant is taken power, and he usually is taken power because things are under a state of unrest and it's not good. And so the tyrant doesn't have to be bad. He could be good. And in this case, the people love him because of what he provides them and how he hires the poor to construct temples. He gives them jobs. He hires people to participate in the government in ways in their city, not necessarily their government, and participate in their city that they had not before. So we're moving further toward a democracy. And Callisthenes, he's our last guy we want to talk about. We are definitely at a democracy here. Callisthenes, and these are all awesome words. I know you just want to name your kids this, but Callisthenes is considered to be the father of democracy. And so while it's really hard to show you the hand motions here, because I have to stand up and do it, we'll do this in class. So we go, put your hands on your shoulders. It's going to be Callisthenes and touch your knees. Callisthenes, Callisthenes. Then we do it like a baby, father of democracy. And you do a check because you can vote. So Callisthenes, Callisthenes, father of democracy. So you do a little check mark like there you go, so he can vote. So Callisthenes is considered to be the father of democracy, and he makes major changes to the governing bodies. He made the assembly now the major governing body, and remember the assembly is open to all citizens. Everybody can participate in now where these laws are going to be made. And then he created a council of 500 citizens who are going to be chosen randomly, and they have to go serve when they are chosen. So they put down whatever it is they're doing, and they'll go serve. These reforms and things that they're doing are going to make Athens the beginning and the birthplace of democracy. So there you go, guys. Those are the three main guys that we need to learn in this unit, and we'll talk more about them.
One way that Spartans and Athenians were similar was that they educated the males. Otherwise, an Athenian education was very different from a Spartan education. Boys studied arithmetic, geometry, drawing, music, and public speaking. They also participated in sports. They believed this would give the men strong minds and bodies. When they finished school, they were expected to actively work in public affairs. Wealthy boys went to school to improve both body and mind. Poor boys stayed at home. Wealthy boys were allowed to become soldiers and government officials, while poor boys usually became farmers. Girls were educated at home by their mothers, taught spinning, weaving, and other household chores. They were not allowed to leave the house except on special occasions, and could not own property or have any legal rights. Bye.